Ocean right now. Hello, everybody. I'm Bart Robley. Welcome to the Drummers Education Connection. I'm here today, as usual, with some of my favorite people in the world in Tucson, Arizona. Chip Ritter, the man, the myth, the legend. Down in San Diego, Rick Stojak. Up in San Francisco, Jeremy Steinkohler. And today, all the way from Brooklyn, New York, Rob Mitzner. Rob, how are you, my friend? It's so good to have you on the show.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm doing great.
Oh, great. So Rob's played, has recorded for top 10 charting albums on Billboard. He's played in films, played on Broadway. He's done a little bit of everything. And now he has this new book out. I love the title of the book, Drumming in a Band, Stuff You Can Use. I love that.
Ooh.
And
it's available on Hudson.
It's available on Hudson Music. Fantastic book. It's got a lot of incredible play-along stuff. It's just a great book. And so we wanted to have him on to talk about that. So here we are. Rob, how are things in New York today? What's going on in New York?
Oh, it's a little cool, but we're hoping for warmer weather soon. I know some of you guys are in California. I'm feeling a little jealous of your warm weather.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, man, but you got the pizza.
That's true.
Yes. And the bagels.
We do.
Yeah.
We do.
That's how we usually end the show with somebody in New York. But let's go ahead and kick it off with that since Rick went there first. Where's the best place to get a piece of pizza around you? That's how we usually end the New York show.
I don't want to give away my secret spot because then everybody's going to go there and there'll be a line. But no. Luigi's in Brooklyn. That's the spot. That's where
Luigi's in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
That sounds right to me.
Dude, just the name alone. I mean, come on, man. That's fantastic. The name is perfect.
You can't beat it. You can't beat Luigi's.
Great, man.
We can talk about this more afterwards.
Yeah, exactly. So let's jump into this. So Rob, you're in your studio. Where's your studio at? Let's talk about your teaching practice. We'll get into the book in a little bit. Where's your studio? And talk to us about your teaching practice.
I'm in the Gowanus neighborhood of Brooklyn, which is kind of near Park Slope, sort of in the center of Brooklyn. And I've been here at this location for about, I guess, 5 years. And this studio I call C Room Studio. And it's within a building of a bunch of other creative artists and creative places where music and other things are happening, which is great because one of the best things about New York is you're always surrounded by creative activity.
Right.
Yeah.
So I've been here and I do a lot of recording here and I do my writing here and I do pretty much all the stuff. I have students both, in person and remotely. So.
Fantastic. That's great. Now you do a lot of recording in there too?
Yeah. I was someone who got into the remote recording thing before the pandemic. A couple of years prior to that, I was already getting into working with Pro Tools and learning about drum mics and that kind of stuff. And when the pandemic hit, it was very fortunate, I think, that I already had that cranking because I was able to hit the ground running and keep a lot of projects going and keep work going at a time when there was no live performance available.
Right.
So
Rob, you mentioned that you do some writing there. Did you mean composing or actually writing?
Well, the writing of the book, and also I do a lot of freelance articles for different drum companies and educational websites and magazines and stuff like that. So that's what I meant as far as writing. I also write music as well, some of which is in the book, actually. A lot of writing and recording goes on here, and of course, rehearsing and playing and stuff too. So
cool. Now, is that just your studio, or do you share it with somebody?
I have a few folks that come in for shorter amounts of time, but it's mostly me at this point in here, which is great because I've got, I basically come here every day and get cranking on stuff. So
that's pretty hard to find a place where you can make noise and not be bothered by other people's noise.
It sure is. I mean,
so is it like artist lofts that you rent, or is it like something like that?
Yeah, it's in a complex called King Killer Studios, and there's basically about 18 or so rooms here, and there's a lot of drummers, a lot of great drummers here. There's there's every different type of musician here and artists and stuff, who all come here, and we basically share this building, and this is my little slice of the building. So
Very cool.
Slice to
Yeah.
heaven.
Rob,
sure.
I want you to walk us through your book a little bit, because I had approached Hudson with a book title that was Stuff You Can't Use. But they rejected that out of hand, and for good reason. Like what does it mean, stuff you can use? Tell us what was the founding concept of your book? Why did you write a book? What niche did your book fill? There's like thousands of drum books out there now, right? So
Yeah.
anytime one of us comes up with an idea for something, you got to first make sure it hasn't been done to death 15 times in 10 different ways, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what was the concept behind your book? Why was it needed? And what does it do for drummers?
I feel like there's a lot of material out there already on how to improve yourself technically, and there's a lot of material out there on how to improvise and things like that. And I felt that I wanted to give people an idea of what it's like to be a professional musician in New York City and have to be able to play a little bit of every style in order to to succeed. I feel that playing a little bit of each style, just knowing a little bit how to do a little bit of jazz or a little bit of reggae or world music grooves, funk, R&B, rock, all these different styles. I feel like being able to play them all makes you better at each one individually. And I always felt that way. And when I was first learning how to play, when I was a teenager, my first teacher, who was in the Washington D.C. area, named Steve Lawrence, his nickname was Freelance Lawrence, and he could play everything. he played with Tina Turner for years, and he played with Little Feat. He played with all these folks.
That's where I heard that name.
Yeah.
And he's in the D.C. area, and he's taught so many students there. And he basically was like, you need to know how to do all this stuff. Like if you really want to get deeper into an individual style, there are whole books on Brazilian music, or Stanton Moore's great New Orleans book, or all these different things. But I wanted to give students a snapshot of all of the different things that you need to know how to do. So the first half of the book is basically all these different grooves. There's the rock, the jazz, the odd time signature, the R&B, in all the different styles. And it's myself and a bass player, just drums and bass, and we filmed it all. There's 53 of them. And we basically made a little video for each and discussed the grooves afterward. And then, I interviewed him as well. So I've got quotes and stuff. So that's the first part of the book. The second half of the book is 18 full-length original play-along tracks that are just all my different projects. I got everyone to contribute a little bit, a tune or two here in New York. So, and there are 20 different musicians, and I interviewed all of them too. So basically what you get is, here's, a chart for the tune, but you also get an explanation from the bass player on what he wants to hear from the drums. We get to the bridge, and what is the horn player listening for from the drum set? What are the other instruments trying to get? There's a lot of stuff in there about textures, changing textures on different sections. Beat placement relative to the metronome is a really important concept in the book too. What grooves should be a little behind the beat, what should be more in the center, and what should be pushing ahead, that kind of thing. And so I think just hearing from all the other musicians, that was the thing when you asked, what sets this book apart. I think that's the thing, because, there are a lot of books about drummers telling drummers what to play. I think if you really want to know how your part and how your thing fits in with the rest of the band, the best place to find that out is from the other people that you're playing with. Because, it's a collaborative thing. And, drums drums in isolation are great. You know, you should practice on your own at home. You should work on your technique, you know, that kind of thing. But like when you take this into battle, you want to be able to have the tools in the toolbox that you need to succeed. That's basically what the book is.
That sounds fantastic. I mean, it's a great idea. And I love the idea of not just drummers talking about drumming. I love the idea of getting the perspective of the other musicians in the band, because, you know, that's who hires us. Drummers don't hire us, right? Horn players hire us, bass players hire us, piano players hire us, MDs hire us. And you got to know what they're looking for to be employable. And you got to have your bases covered. So it sounds like this book is sort of, you know, make you employable.
Yeah, it's to make you employable. I guess I sort of, you know, now that when you said that, I'm almost thinking of myself as the conduit between the person who's reading the book and all of those other musicians. And so I'm like translating their stuff into drum, like, okay, drummers, here's what they said. Here's what this means for you. Right.
That's good. That's good. Because how many times have we been in rehearsals where, you know, the singer says something or the guitar player says something, and it's like, dude, you're speaking like gibberish to me, because that means nothing. Yeah. You're trying to communicate something that you're wanting from me that you're not speaking my language with that, right?
Just reminded me of this article I wrote a number of years ago for, I can't remember what the blog was, but it was called How to Communicate with Your Drummer. And I just remember all of the, I just remember all of the comments. Oh man, the comments on that article. There was one guy that said, throw him raw meat, or, you know, whatever. It's like, come on, man, give me a break.
Flash shiny objects.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Shiny objects. Hey, shiny objects work great for me. I'm attracted to them. You know, it reminds me of when we had Mitch Marine on, and he, you know, he's a bass player and an amazing drummer. And he just came around and he goes, you know, drummers practice the stupidest shit. You know, they don't practice for the song. You know, they just, you know, they want to go crazy on stuff. And sometimes, you know, practicing the correct stuff grooves. And it's not about being the best Brazilian drummer in the world or the best, second line drummer in the world. It's more about knowing a little bit of it and being able to navigate your way through. And like you said, Rob, it all, you know, each one of those areas where you are really good at is going to help you in, you know, in that, you know, in the second line drumming, in the Brazilian drumming, and that'll carry into your main type of drumming. I love that. I absolutely love that. I think that that's brilliant. It's a fantastic idea. Yeah.
Rob, so you engineered this and you videoed it yourself. That sounds like a big undertaking. It sounds like a COVID project.
I'll tell you what, I had some help from some close friends who, if I hadn't, first of all, it was a very unique time being able to do this in the pandemic, because I was able to call in every favor. I was able to call in everybody. I said, guys, I'm doing this thing, you know, this is the thing that I need you for. This is where I need some support and some help. I have a friend named Albert Bickley. Albert works right now. He's a camera and lighting guy, and he works at NBC, but he used to work at a camera rental place, and he hooked me up with some gear, and that really helped. We were able to do 4 camera angles, so you could see the foot and all this stuff. You know, and then of course, the bassist that's on this entire throughout the entire book, he's on pretty much every track, is named Dmitry Ishenko, and he's pretty much the musician I've played with the most in my life. We've been playing together for 20 years. We've made, I don't know, at least 30 albums together, probably more. Wow. And he, you know, he plays every style. He's pretty much the best musician that I know. He's going to be embarrassed if he sees this, but he knows so much about music, and just, you know, being able to do the bass and drum workshop with him and let the drummers hear him, because here's the thing. There's I've got play along tracks for every track. There's drummerless MP3s. So it's click and bass on the first half of the book. In the second half, you play with the rest of the band. But for the first half, with all these grooves, all in styles, it's just Click and Dimitri. So, you know, he's really the one teaching these folks who are, you know, working, because you're listening to him, you're playing with him, he's pulling you forward or back, he's giving you his perspective. You can learn as much or more from him than you know, just because that's drummers and bass players. I mean, you guys know that's the lock. So
yeah. I think, you know, my favorite part about that is that you're letting him do all the work and do all the teaching. You wrote the book and you're getting the check. So I mean, that's bitching. That's fantastic. I got to come to New York and hang out and take some lessons from you on how to do that.
I also, you know, I also had like the husband of one of my amazing artists is a close friend, and he is a graphic designer, and he laid this book out for me. You know, I did the basic layout, but he made it look super professional and stuff. His name's Rick Hammerschmidt, and without him, it wouldn't have been, you know, the way it was as far as the layout. So I had so much help. You know, I really am very grateful to everyone.
Did Rob and Joe at Hudson have any you know, tweaks or feedback, or did you just give it to them? Here it is, it's done.
Yeah, yes, they did. And in fact, you know, I wanted to talk about them because, you know, I had a different title for the book, and it was a very complicated title. And Rob wrote to me, Rob Wallace, my publisher at Hudson Music, wrote to me and said, I think we need to put the word drums or drumming in the title of the book. I said, that's probably a good idea. This is why you're the expert.
That's why Rob makes the big bucks. Yeah.
Yeah. And Joe had some great suggestions as far as like the order of some of the grooves and a few of the basic things like that. So, nice. You know, I mean, this is my first book, so I've done a lot of writing, but it's my first book. So you're kind of flying blind as far as a lot of the aspects of the process, you know.
Right.
Just thumbing through it while you're
available on digital.
Yeah, Hudson Music has the ebook as well. You can get it on their site, and it's available with the Hudson Music app. So the cool thing is, like, you can click on the icons and stuff as you read. You can listen to the tracks and watch the video. It's very integrated.
Cool.
Yeah,
that's right. And then what about the hard copy? Sorry, Bart.
I'm sorry, you said the hard copy. Yeah, I mean, the hard copy you can get. I have them available on my website. I can do signed copies from robmitzner.com. It's on Amazon. It's on Steve Weiss Music. It's Hal Leonard does the distribution, so it's in a lot of different places, which is very cool. So
that's great.
Thumbing through the book as you're talking about it, you know, you were talking about the layout a second ago, and man, it really is. It's laid out really well. I was looking at it the other day when you sent it to me, and when you texted me and said, yeah, it's coming in, I went over the mailbox and it was there, and just thumbed through it real quick, and I was like, wow, it really is well put together. And as we're talking here and you're describing the book, it is a beautiful book. I mean, everything, little things like the fonts that are used. I mean, it's superb. It's a really good book, Rob. Really,
thank you
good.
So much.
I'm gonna download the stuff and start practicing out of it, you know, right away. It's a really, really well done book, man. Fantastic.
Thank you. The way that the multimedia is on the Hudson from the Hudson Media Library on the Hal Leonard site is really comprehensive, and it makes it really easy to practice the stuff, because you can go and you can batch download all of the drummerless tracks and put them on your device, or you can use the site, like they have a little player there so you can speed it up and slow it down if you want to practice at 50%, you know, or you can loop different sections. It's really cool. It's very, you know, that was a nice surprise for me when I saw that.
Where do you go to download it?
Once
you have the book.
Yeah. Well, basically on the first page of every book, there's this little box right here at the bottom. I'm sorry, you can't see, but there's a little box right there, and you go to my library, I'm sorry, Hal, from the Hal Leonard site, halleonard.com/mylibrary. And there's a code, and you pop your code in, and you basically get access to all of the stuff. There's 71 videos and over 150 MP3s.
Wow, 71 videos. That's a lot of work, man. A lot of editing, a lot of shooting, a lot of taking and retaking, and wow, good for you.
For sure. For sure, it definitely.
So Jacob Sosa, who we had on just a couple of weeks ago, who's a big member of our community, he's a drum teacher out in Colorado. He says groove number 23 is my favorite for sure. Love me some Jay Dilla. Also love the tip jar too.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, the tip jar is basically, I mean, Ricky, the designer, did this little icon, this great little tip jar icon with these googly eyes. And that's the tip. That's the tip jar, and it has all the information you need to, to go play the gig.
It's not like if you like this book, drop $1 in this virtual tip jar for Rob.
that would be cool too.
Everybody who likes the book, just send Rob an extra $1. Okay, just Venmo him or whatever. There's a tip jar.
Hey Rob, can we take it back for a little bit and tell us a little bit about what got you started drumming, and how did you begin this journey that you're on?
Well, I could give you this complicated answer, but really, like, my mother was the one who decided that she would suggest this when I was 12. She said, okay, I had a choice. I could either take home economics, I could take wood shop, or I could take band. And I played guitar and piano. My dad was musically inclined, and I started piano lessons when I was like very, very young. And I started guitar when I was like 5 years old. So I could play stuff, but you couldn't play those instruments in the band at school. So I needed something to do in the school band. And my mom said, what about the drums? And I don't know if she knew that it was going to start a lifelong pursuit for me, or that she was going to have years of noise that she was about to endure. But basically that was how it started. And I got into the middle school band, and I was, on the drum pad doing the thing. And, I enjoyed the social aspect of it. And I was already super into the music, and I was like, oh, wait a minute, this is where I'm supposed to be. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. And, and then I hooked up with my first teacher, and he turned me on to jazz. So that was really the first thing that opened my eyes, is, to reading music and learning how to improvise, and like working within a group framework. And so I was doing jazz, and I started playing in rock bands when I was in middle school and high school. And then it just kind of went from there.
When you say he turned you on to jazz, how did he turn you on to jazz? What was that like?
I mean, the first thing he
strapped you
did
into a chair.
Right.
He put the clockwork orange things in his eyes and headphones on him.
Back then,
tortured him.
Back then, well, here's the thing. He back then, he would make cassette tapes. He like made me a cassette tape. It was like Herbie Hancock, like Cantaloupe Island. And I'm listening to this, and it's jazz, but it's kind of like, the straight 8C groove. And that was the stuff that really spoke to me at the time. And then I got into the Schofield and funky stuff and all that. And I always listened to the Beatles and Led Zeppelin and stuff when I was younger. But I mean, just learning about jazz as a teenager was kind of the eye opener for me as far as the drums.
Right on.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Very
And then
similar
did you go to school for drums? Did you go to college, or did you?
I went to college. I went to Brown University in Providence, and I basically did not go there with the idea of getting a music degree or being a professional musician. So I was a political science major, but I was taking music classes and theory and stuff too. And I ended up just getting a double major and doing a music degree as well. And I was playing in the big band there, playing big band jazz. And then I started studying with Bob Gullotti. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Bob, but he was like a legendary avant-garde drummer with George Garzone and John Lockwood in a band called The Fringe in the Boston area for many years. And Bob was kind of a legend up there, and everybody who went through Boston, the New England area, had, basically Bob was an important guy. And so I studied with him for a number of years, and he taught me a lot as well. And, I just kind of got more and more into it. And I really found myself unable to do other things because I was so focused on the drums and music.
That's
you got the bite, you got the bug, and you're addicted to it.
You got
I want to go ahead and change topics real quick again, if I can. What you're currently with a few different companies. Can you talk about your endorsements real quick?
Yeah, I'm really grateful, especially to Paiste Cymbals, who, I signed with them just as I was about to do all of this filming for the book. And again, we were in the height of the pandemic and everything was closed. And they got me this incredible spread of different cymbals. So I have, if you watch the videos for the book, there's stuff in all different styles. And, I'm really grateful to them for providing me with, the gear that I needed to get the filming happening. The diversity of what they got for me for that was really cool. And also, like, I'm a Remo artist, so Remo, thank you to them. And Hendrix Drums, I play their snare drums. I've played their snares for a number of years. That's a solid stave walnut snare, really great. And then Drumdots, which are like these little rubber silicone things that you put on the drums for studio stuff. And I'm super hooked on those for recording because they kind of get rid of the nasty overtones without killing the sound of your drum. So those are my companies. And then of course, like Lowboy Beaters, that's a company that I've been doing some writing for them. Yeah, there you go.
There it is.
And yeah, they make these beautiful custom beaters. So, I'm just really feel very grateful to be associated with those folks.
Very cool. Very cool.
These are so solid, man. They're very good for the knee test.
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
Rick's on fire today, man.
Yeah.
That's that beater's called the Leather Daddy.
The Leather Daddy.
That's what you got. It is. Check it out. It's leather.
That's cool, man. Very cool.
Yeah.
Hey,
so really good. This counterweight.
Rob, I got a question for you. Talking about the video and the recording and the editing and everything. All of us here are published authors, and we all have books out, DVDs, and back in the day when DVDs were relevant and stuff like that. Mini albums to all of us and everything like that. Talk to some of the listeners about not only what went into this, but how long it takes. What's an undertaking like this? You're not going to count the hours, but just basically, how long did it take you to come out with this book? You didn't just wake up one day and go, okay, here's my book. I mean, there's a ton of work that goes into that. Talk to us about that, about how long did it take from I'm going to write a book to the finished product? 14
months. That's how long it took.
Wow, man.
And that was, like the actual writing of the book. I'm sure, you guys all have written books as well. So, I mean, like the actual writing of the book was not the thing that takes the longest time, because you go into it with an idea and you say, okay, this is what I want to do. But then there's all this other stuff that has to come together. There's the layout and the filming of it. And I did the interviews and, all of just the amount of proofreading. The book is 170 pages. So it's not a small book. So, basically the first thing that happened was I assembled all of these artists that contributed tunes. And, we basically did the remote recording process to put that together. So like I recorded we did the drums and bass tracks in this room all at once. And then people would you know, the guitarists and the singers and the piano players and the horn players would all put their parts together and then send them, you know, and we'd create it in a remote fashion, because some of these artists are scattered all over the place. They're all over the country. So so we did that, and we put all the tracks together, and then the next thing was basically writing it and doing all of the you know, the notation, like getting into MuseScore and doing all the notation for the book and making all the charts and everything. Like that took quite a bit of time. And then like I interviewed all 20 of these folks. So that also was an involved process. And then of course, like there's all the video editing and the post-production and the audio mixing. One of my partners here at the studio is a great engineer named Charles Burst at the Seaside Lounge Studios. That's his recording studio that he has separately from here, and he mixed and did a lot of the audio cleanup for all of these tracks. So, you know, I had that help, but it really was a very involved process of putting all of that together. And then, of course, there was the editing process with Hudson. You know, Joe Bergamini was my editor, and just going through and doing all that, it just really, you know, it's definitely a time-consuming thing. You know, it took all of that time. Like it was really, you know, just pushing and pushing to get it going.
How did you not end up feeling overwhelmed during the process, or did you?
I did. The good thing about it was because it was happening at a time, you know, like before this, I was doing like before the pandemic, I was doing like 6 gigs a week and writing and running around and touring and flying everywhere. And this was happening during a time that I was not. So like, I really was able to focus a lot of my energy on it. And I think that, you know, just knowing that I had that time really helped. But yeah, it was hectic. It was crazy. I mean, I was like pulling 14-hour days and staying up late, and like I got a little insane.
You know? I can imagine, man. I can imagine.
Really great to feel like you had this creative outlet and this purpose during a time when gigs were gone and, you know, lessons were scarce or just online. And so, man, what a fantastic thing to come out of that you know, that period. You know, for a lot of people, it was like barren landscape, nothing, no practicing, no motivation. You know, we've talked about some people, their struggles with motivation during COVID, but man, you were grinding and, you know, working hard to get this amazing thing out, and now it's out in the world.
Yeah, I never could have done. I never would have had time to do this if it was in the fashion that I did it, if it weren't for that. So, you know, I guess it's a silver lining.
For
in
sure.
a way.
Yeah.
I also, you know, I don't know if you guys know Dan Schinder. From
he was on the show.
We've had him on the show.
Yeah. So Dan was. I had always had this idea of writing a book, but Dan was the one who sort of pushed me into doing it and introduced me to Hudson music. And he was like, you know, and he helped me formulate some of the original thoughts about what this book would be. Because I was still trying to put it together at the beginning when we were, you know, first having conversations. And he basically said, well, the book should just be the stuff that you do, stuff you can use. I said, okay, cool. That sounds great. And that's how it, you know.
And, you know, you worked with artists all over the country.
Yeah.
Remotely doing this, recording and everything. And isn't it wonderful that you were anointed with that technology?
There it is. There it is. He got it in there. He got it in there.
Got it in there.
Think about that. I mean, that's like a silver lining in the pandemic. That's very cool.
It certainly was something I was glad that I did, because, you know, like in New York, there was the outdoor gig scene was happening, you know, both of the 2 summers of the pandemic, but not, you know, like not enough to really fill everything up. So being able to do remote work, it's, you know, it's wonderful. It's a blessing. I mean, I still enjoy being in the same room as people. That's, you know, that you can't really replace that. But I mean, remote recording was definitely something I was, you know, very pleased that I knew how to do.
Right.
That's
So Rob,
awesome.
what genres are you recording? Jazz stuff, commercials? What's your forte?
Yeah, I mean, all different things. Like, rock bands will send me stuff, and I'll send it back and record tracks for them. I have a friend who's in the book, a great composer named Will Reynolds, who is a musical theater guy. So I'll do like a soundtrack for a whole musical, or like little cues for theater performances and stuff. I'll do that. I have some of that coming up next month. And I mean, basically anything anybody asks me to do, I try to be able to, to crank it out, send it back. So
That's great. And you're doing it all on Pro Tools also, you mentioned?
Yep.
I know
I
that's
got
quite
into
an
that, yeah.
endeavor. That's so many people just give up on Pro Tools because it's so hard.
Well, I mean, Rob, you're just to piggyback onto what Rick just said. You're a terrific example of today's modern successful drummer, which is not just about being a drummer, right?
Right.
You are also a lighting guy. You're an audio engineer. You're a videographer. You're an interviewer.
Yep.
You're a composer and arranger and a band leader, and you've got to have this massive skill set to pull something like this off, because it's not like you're getting a giant budget from some production company. Right.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to do this book, and I said, but people told me I was kind of biting off a lot, and I said, well, I don't know how to do some of the things that I need to know how to do,
right,
but I'll just learn how to do them.
Yeah.
And then if I need help, I have resources.
I love that you said that. There's so many people who've come on this show who have said pretty much the same thing. Rob Wallace, we were talking about earlier. When he first started Hudson, he didn't know what he was doing.
Right.
He would say that he still doesn't know what he's doing. But or when he started the Drummers Collective, he was a guy just taking drum lessons at the Drummers Collective in New York City. Yeah. And it was going belly up and for sale. And someone asked him if he was interested. He's like, I don't know the first thing about it, but yeah. And each time he sort of stumbled into the next thing and figured it out as he went, but always had the vision and the drive and the passion. And, I just love hearing stories about guys and women too, who are, figuring out what needs to be figured out to make their vision come to fruition.
Another thing, if people, sometimes I'll get a call to record, someone will say, oh, do you play this? Do you have this percussion instrument? And even if it's some weird percussion instrument, even if I don't have it,
you say yes.
Sometimes depending on how hard the part is, I'll just say, oh, sure, no problem. Then, you go out and you get it and you learn how to play it. I mean, that's just part of the deal,
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I think that,
Oh, nice.
yeah. I think you're right. That's part of the gig, and piggybacking on what Jeremy and Rick said, there's so many people that I think they get going on something like Pro Tools or an electronic pad, like Rick just played, and there's like this, well, I have this thing now, but it doesn't do what I thought it could do, so I'm just going to give up. No, I mean, you have to put in the work to figure it out and then apply it. It's it's the follow through, I guess, and that goes for it goes for anything. You've got to have the follow through.
Yeah.
Rob, out of all the songs that are in the book, what's your favorite?
Well, selfishly, I wrote one. The final song in the book is called "Blues for Bob," and that's for my teacher Bob Gullotti, who
cool.
He passed away just before the pandemic started, and that one is sort of an ode to him, and that's got Chris Cheek, who's like an incredible, really world-renowned saxophone player, and then Dmitry Ishenko, the bassist. So that's just sax, bass, and drums trio. And that's one that I'm proud of because it's sort of an ode to him. And the concept behind that tune is that the drums play the melody in unison with everyone else in the band. And one of the things Bob taught all of his students, and he taught me, he had us do this exercise where we take the Charlie Parker Omnibook and we play all of the transcriptions of the heads and his solos, Charlie Parker's saxophone solos, around the drum set melodically. And
Wow.
that was something that really made a big impact on me. And, you know, just being able to phrase on the drum set as if you were a saxophone player.
Yes.
So actually my big crazy project that I did before the book at the beginning of the pandemic was I live streamed myself playing the entire Omnibook from front to back, playing all of that Charlie Parker stuff, the way he taught.
And
Wow.
were you improvising the orchestration around the kit?
Yes, you basically, you know, like if Bird goes up a little bit with
you go the high tom,
you go the high tom, you know, that kind of things.
Yeah.
2 and 4 in the hi-hat.
Fantastic. I love that.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's cool.
I often, it's so funny you say that, because I often, one of the pieces of advice I give to my jazz students often when I'm talking about soloing and phrasing is think like a sax player. You know, think like discrete phrases that link together like that. That's fantastic. I never thought about using the Omnibook though. That's great.
Yeah, that was a kind of at the beginning of the pandemic when I was searching for something, and, you know, Bob had passed away recently. I said, well, I'm just going to play the whole book cover to cover. It took 3 hours, but it was,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
What is this book, the Omnibook?
It's basically 60 of Charlie Parker's most famous tunes, transcribed, the head transcribed, and then his solos. So they're short, you know, they're short little bits. So you're not playing the whole song, you're just playing what he's playing. You're basically mimicking what he's doing.
So most young jazz sax players will spend some time cutting their teeth on that book to you know, learn phrasing and harmonic ideas that Charlie Parker, you know.
Wow, that's cool. I've never heard of that.
Yeah, that's really fantastic. That's cool as hell.
Yeah, he does it with the Coltrane. Coltrane is next. So like once you do the whole Charlie Parker book, like graduate school is then you do it with the Coltrane Omnibook, which is like, I mean, Coltrane, all of his solos are like 50 choruses. So like the book is like super thick, you know.
then like post grad would be Ross on Roland Kirk.
Yeah.
So Rob, are you doing much teaching now?
A little bit. I'm doing a lot of writing of articles and teaching sort of through the through that way. You know, I write a little bit for Drumeo. I do freelance work for them, and for Lowboy beaters, and then I have a few regular students that I have kept throughout this whole process, and I teach them remotely and stuff. So, but I mean, I do some teaching, but I also a lot of writing.
Well, that must be great to have your book as a resource to teach your students.
It was so cool the first time,
just
being like, hey, all right, I actually wrote the book on this, so you know, you got to check this out. You know, don't.
Yeah, so you're the right teacher for that book.
Yeah. No arguing.
Yeah.
Hey, so on the writing for Drumeo, like the freelance writing, what do you write? Articles? What do you write for them?
Yeah, it's I'll do product guides. I'll do you know, everything from, you know, gear guides to like educational things with beats. You know, beginner beats and features on basically anything to do with drumming. I wrote an article on Dave Grohl. There's just a lot of different things. And then for Lowboy beaters, I'm working on a great project with them where I'm interviewing all of their artists about the best beaters for each different style of music. So I got to interview some great drummers in different, like the jazz. We did a jazz article. We did a country one. I got to interview like the drummers for Carrie Underwood and Lee Brice and all these heavy cats. So
nice.
So I'm working on that for Lowboy, and I'm pretty psyched about that. They're, you know, that's a really cool company, and they're you know, they make something that I believe in, so that's makes it easier to write about. So
certainly, yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine writing an article for something that either you haven't used or you're not really hip on, but they want you to. Yeah, that'd be tough, you know.
I mean, I like those smaller companies that started from, you know, just a person with an idea and then they built it into something really great. That just, you know, I can relate to that sort of struggle that it takes to get that, to get something like that off the ground. So,
Well,
I think we all can.
Yeah.
mean, I love Vic Firth's story. I mean, he
Yeah.
couldn't find mallets that he liked. So he started making them, and look what he did. Amazing stuff.
Yeah.
That's really cool, Rob. That's really cool. I like that a lot.
Hey, Rob, someone, I can't tell who it is from the comments, but I'm guessing it might be Jake Sosa, asks, how did you get started writing articles? Sounds like great work to have.
I went to NAMM and I shook everybody's hand and gave out all my business cards back when those were a thing.
Nice.
That's how.
Great.
Yeah. That's
Very
the short answer. I mean, the
Rob,
thing is, yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, regarding your drum students, how do you get your drum students to practice if they're not practicing? What tips and tricks can you give us other teachers?
To be honest with you, I always felt like if the student wasn't, didn't want to study and didn't want to practice, then, they weren't in the right place. I can't provide that motivation myself. Maybe the thing is, like, as a teacher, if your student's not feeling it, maybe you need to tweak what you're giving them a little bit. Because, like, if you have somebody that, they like this, but they don't like that style or whatever, you can, like, tailor your lesson to fit the student. I think that's important because, but at the same time, like, if you don't want to practice, then you shouldn't be studying. And, I had a student ask me, like, what is, like, the least amount that I can practice to do this thing? And I said, well, you don't have to practice at all, but then maybe you're not in the right place. I mean, I think that motivation has to be internal, but it also has to be external from us as teachers, giving them, giving your students things that will get them excited. And you guys have so many years of teaching experience. You just have to unlock that for each person. You got to find, like, what is the thing that's going to get this person excited about playing?
You got to find the spark. Yeah.
And I think that it's a I think motivation is one thing, as a teacher, you want to motivate your students and you want them to walk out of a lesson feeling motivated, but it's the discipline. When you look at the drum set and you're like, oh man, I got to go play something that I'm really terrible at for a few days before I get sort of good at it, and it's going to be a struggle. That's where the determination comes in. Motivation. I think motivation only gets you so far.
You're right.
And I think that has to come from within. I haven't, in all my years of teaching, the one thing I haven't been able to figure out how to teach is determination. And I think that's because it's up to the individual. Because what you're saying, like with Pro Tools, it's so easy to, like, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. It's so easy to look at something and go, I'm motivated because I want to record an album. So I'm going to sit down and figure out Pro Tools. And then 20 minutes into it, you're blinded by information and you're like, I'm just going to go play video games. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? That determination, that's a tough one. That's a tough one.
I think part of what you do for that part is you model it, and you show them what can be achieved if they have that, if they set their mind to it, if they have discipline with their practice. I think it's so important for students to sort of not just practice in a bubble, but see other students at drum recitals or at gigs or whatever, at rock band workshops and things, to see, like, that's where I could get if I keep my nose to the grindstone,
Yeah. I always make sure to try to play a little bit in every lesson too, just so they can see you play. Right. Doesn't matter what you play. If you're playing the thing that they're playing, or if you just play for a second, you just remind them, this is what you're trying to get to. Right. This is what it will sound like if you, put your mind
giving
to
them context. Yeah.
Right. And the other piece, I think, is also, really encouragement and positive feedback, right? Because that's plays such a critical role. It did for me with my teacher when I was a teenager. I mean, I wanted nothing more to go and then please my teacher each week with how well I had done on the exercises.
Yeah, that's how I felt about Bob Gullotti, for sure.
Yeah. I had a student yesterday I was giving a lesson to, and this kid, he's been working so hard on Boulevard of Broken Dreams by Green Day, right? And he's having such a hard time just going from the verse into the chorus, this little drum fill.
Get that
Man, yeah. Oh,
There it is.
every week, man. That's the one. That's
That
the
one?
one.
That
That's the one.
Yeah.
And you know it.
Yeah.
Go see Rick. No,
Yeah, I thought
that's how you do it. Oh, no wonder. No, but I've been, and the poor kid, man, he's in there swinging and ducking every week. And yesterday, he goes, I think I got it. And he played it. And I was like, oh, that was perfect. And then, of course, the teacher made me do it again. So he did it again. And then he did it again. And I was like, dude, you got it. And the fact that I got excited,
Yes.
I mean, he was just over the moon. He's like, it was like, I could have handed the kid $1 million and he wouldn't have been as happy. He was so happy that I was excited. And I truly was excited for him because he had been working on it for so long, and, I think that's, just the point that you made, I'm just, I guess, saying it a different way, but just showing them, you've done this, and they've made us happy. That's a cool thing.
And that you care, it's like you as a teacher are like this other adult, this outside person who's not their parents or, a peer or whatever, who's invested in their progress and cares about, then all of a sudden there's someone in there with them and they're not doing it on their own,
Right.
I get more excited about a student who's actually earned a part and really worked for it and get it. And that gets me so fired up. I'm generally just elated to see that they figured it out. That gets me more excited than somebody who's, picked up the sticks when they were 2 years old and they're just a natural. So and then they see that they get all pumped up. Man, you're excited. Well, I'm excited now. They're ignited and they, so that's our role as a teacher is to figure out all these different ways to get them ignited and into it. I wanted to mention a good tip for everybody. There's a great book. You might know it, The Talent Code by Daniel Coyle.
Yes. Fantastic book.
No, I don't know that book.
Should read that.
I would highly recommend.
Cool. All right.
So Rob, what are you looking forward to? What's coming up on the horizon that we can be looking forward to seeing from you?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, it seems like I'm starting to get busier with playing out and touring and playing around New York and doing things like that. And I mean, I'm performing with a lot of the artists in the book regularly. These are my guys. So I mean, so I'm doing that. And then I'm doing the writing thing still with Lowboy and working on that, and basically just kind of like really getting back into the swing of things since the pandemic.
Right on.
So,
Very cool. How much now do you do any freelance producing there in your studio as well? Do you do? I
have. I would say, I gravitate more toward just doing the remote tracks and stuff at this point, just because of the amount of time and things like that. But if like I produced all of this music for the book, and that was great. And I enjoy doing that as well. I mean, I'm lucky to have this incredible resource of all these incredible musicians. So I have access to folks that I can call on if we need to put tracks together, which is really cool. So,
well, you're a good example of how important it is to be able to get along with people and to relate to people and communicate with people. And that's a really good skill set for any aspiring drummer to have.
Yeah, I mean, I know this has probably been said to death every time you have an interview here, but I mean, it's not just about how well you play. It's about a lot of these other things as well. And, you need to be good at playing, and you need all the stuff you can use. You need to have all that stuff, but you also need to be able to work with people and get along with folks. And, I mean, when someone hires you for a gig, they don't want to hear your entire life story. They want to know, can you do this job? Can you record these tracks? Can you play this show? Can you make it happen? And musicians are all friends. Everyone becomes friends That's sort of part of the hang when you're
Yeah.
out playing gigs and you're doing things. But this is a job, it's a business. So you have to be able to get the work done. And one of the things that you need to be able to do is interact well with people who hire you and make them feel like they're the most important thing in the world to you. And you have to believe that while you're doing it. You know, you have to really grab onto that as an idea. And
Right on.
you know,
Well said. Well said.
Yeah, very well said. Tim, I had the opportunity one time of working with Tim Messina. He's the saxophone player and MD for Brian Setzer Orchestra.
mm-hmm.
Did some live shows and did some recording with him and stuff. And that's his big thing. It's, you know, it's all about the hang. You know, it
Sure.
really is. It's all about the hang. I think there's a point where it's taken for granted that you
Mhm.
can play. I mean, you know, you get to a point in your career and it's like, okay, you're here, you obviously can play. But, you know, if you're living on a tour bus or you're sitting
Mhm.
beside somebody in an airplane or you're just hanging out backstage having dinner before the show or after the show, you know, do you want to be with this person? The hang's a
Yeah.
big
Yeah.
deal. You know, the hang's
Absolutely.
a real big deal, you know.
I
'Cause you're-
mean, look, you know, the thing is too, there's so many drummers in New York. I learned when I first moved here, I was like, oh man, there are so many drummers and they're all great, you know,
Yeah.
and like people say, oh, do you know this guy? No. And then you go look at this guy and you're like, oh my God, he or she is incredible.
Yeah.
And so like, what are you going to do that gets you that 5% better than this person who's as good or better than you? Like, how are you going to differentiate yourself? Well, you got to do all this different stuff. You got to play all the different styles and you got to be able to work with everybody. That's it.
Yep. Yeah.
Rob, how much time did it take you to feel like you kind of were having some success or breaking in that scene?
God, I don't know. I feel like I'm still breaking in.
Sure, of
I
course.
think that's
Of
a
course.
lifelong pursuit, right? I think
Yeah.
that is.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, I think
I-
that's
that's
that
part of the
is.
reason
How
why
long
I
did it
came
take you
here.
yeah, but how long before you're like, oh, I'm making some money, I'm paying my bills?
I had the benefit of like I was living in Boston for a number of years after I went to college, and I met a lot of people there, and I established a great professional network there, and so I was already touring and doing things. At the time I moved to New York, like a guy I was touring with with somebody, and they were also moving from Boston to New York, so like I had that touring gig, so I was able to keep the plates spinning while I was making the move and breaking in. And then gradually I spent more time, here and made a larger footprint in the city, because I mean, that's the thing. Like there's a lot of gigs in New York, but a lot of them don't pay so great. So if you want to make money, you have to do other things. You have to go on the road. You have to do, diversify your income sources.
Right.
Oh yeah, I think as that's one thing that outsiders looking in or young drummers or whatever, they don't understand that. They think it's all, okay, I'm going to be on the road with the band and that's how I'm going to make the majority of my money. And it's, I make money being in my band, but a big part of what I do, a big part of my income is teaching, book sales, record sales. The band, like you said, you're diversified, and you got to put on that hat, okay, what am I doing today? And which hat do I put on? And it all evolves, around drumming. We all do that. But putting on, okay, which am I a producer today, or am I a performer? Am I an author, or am I a teacher? And fitting that mold.
And just being able to do different things will protect you in times when one of those things is not doing well for you. If there's, if everything gets shut down and there's no gigs, well, you got to be able to do something else.
That's right. Yeah, I knew a lot of musicians who got hit really hard when the gigs dried up and they had nothing else going on. And all of us who were already teaching, have been teaching for years, we didn't miss a beat.
Yeah. And I know, I mean, I'm sure you guys had this experience. I don't do as many private lessons. I do some every week, but like some of the guys that I know that were doing 30 lessons a week, like they actually had more work over the pandemic because everybody wanted to start. Everyone had time, and you know.
Yep.
Cool. Well,
Okay, so my question, I'm gonna kind of do like I did during the Femulero thing, and it's the most important question. We've already established Luigi's. Okay, but when you're at Luigi's, what exactly is it that you order? What kind of pizza is it you get, Rob? This is the most important question of the day. So just
sure well, first of all, let me just make sure that we're, because there's a couple of Luigi's. A couple of different Luigi's. Okay. I want to make sure this is the Luigi's in Sunset Park, like on 5th Avenue. That's the one you want, like 5th Avenue and like 20-something street. And that's the one you want, and you want the fresh mozzarella slice. That's the one you want.
That's the one.
Yeah.
So are there two Luigi's that hate each other, or is there
they battle it out?
Yeah, and the other Luigi's is actually technically also in the same neighborhood of Sunset Park, like 25 blocks away. So I don't have experience with that one, but I guess the one you want is on 5th and 23rd. That's the Luigi's you want.
5th and 23rd. Okay, there we go.
Rob, next time you're in the city, go to Italian Village on 79th and 1st.
Okay.
If you're in the neighborhood, if you're ever up there.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Then come back and talk to me about Luigi's.
Hey man, everybody's got their own spot. Everyone's got their own spot.
Here's the thing. We always have from time to time we have these a round table, and we have a thing that we call all hands on deck, and we had different drum teachers come on, and we may talk about bass drum beaters, right? But it's everybody's opinion. I think we need to have an all hands on deck about pizza, and just watch everybody duke it out, man.
Yeah.
It would be that would be a bloodbath, but it would be fun to watch.
It's a very hot topic.
You better not talk smack, Jeremy, about Luigi. He's going to be watching this.
That's right, man. People are,
I've never had Luigi. The judge is still out. I haven't had Luigi's yet, but next time
cash only at Luigi's.
That's okay.
Oh man, no kidding.
Of course.
Wow, yeah. What else is going on there, huh?
Yeah. Right.
Hey, listen, Rob, thank you so much for reaching out. It's been a real pleasure, and just in the short time that we got to know you here on deck, you can just tell you're a personable guy, and it really is all about the hang, and it's really cool that the drumming community has come together so much, and it's just been a pleasure having you on the show. Thank you so much. Would you be up for coming back on, like on an all hands on deck or something like that, if we did an authors thing or whatever?
For sure, it'd be a pleasure.
That's great. That's great. Well, thanks. Yeah, thanks, Rob. This is fantastic.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's really been great. I really admire what you guys are trying to do here with this group, and I've been checking out the interviews and stuff, and it's been really great. Getting to meet you and talk and stuff.
Well, there's a link in the comments to the book. Go get the book. It's here. Drumming in a band, stuff you can use. Thank you so much, Rob.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Rob, after I download this and I can't play it, if I call you crying, you'll give me a lesson, right?
For sure. Yes. Okay. I'm available for tech support.
Okay. So if I'm sobbing because of a Brazilian thing that I can't pull off, I can get a lesson, right? That's what I'm saying.
You bet.
Okay. You can talk me up the cliff.
Yes. Yes,
okay,
I
awesome. Fantastic. Well, thanks, Rob. Good luck with your book. We will see everybody that's watching next week here on Drummers Education Connection. Thanks for watching. Check it out on YouTube.
See you next week, everybody.
We're going to slice some mozzarella, everybody.
I got it. Rob.
Luigi's.